Let's build a habitat for the fastest animal on Earth, the cheetah. Today we are back in the desert adventure park where we'll build a detailed habitat for those beautiful big cats that is inspired by their natural habitat, which is of course the African savanna. I was lucky enough to find the King Cheetah in the animal trading center, so I just had to add this stunning variation to our zoo. I am sure that such a unique, beautiful cat will become a mascot of our zoo, so this enclosure just had to be special. I added here a lot of tall grasses that the cheetahs love and a little hill to serve for them as the observation point. This habitat also features one of the most detailed backstage areas that I ever created in Planet Zoo, so I really hope you guys will enjoy today's build. So without further ado, let me show you how this all was created. Hi guys, this is Cesar Creates and welcome back to my channel. We are finally back in the desert adventure park. So many of you guys asked about the zoo, asked about the new episode, so here we are. And today we'll build a habitat for a cheetah. And this will be a very special cheetah because we have a King Cheetah in the desert adventure park. So I originally didn't plan this. Of course I wanted to build for a cheetah, but I didn't know that we'll have this special one in here. So after building this habitat, I opened the animal trading center and there it was. On the first place in the trading center, we had a male King Cheetah, which is additionally a silver one. So I guess I was super lucky because it is quite hard to get those more rare colorations and variants for the animals in the sandbox mode, and here we play in the sandbox. So yeah, today we'll have a special episode for a special animal, the King Cheetah. We actually will have 3 different cheetahs living in this enclosure. It was quite big, so I decided to add 3 of them. I saw in some zoos that they are housed in bigger groups, no, maybe not big groups, but like 3 or 4 of them are in one enclosure. So I thought that it will make sense, and also I was really surprised because I didn't know that we actually can have 3 cheetahs in one enclosure in the game. I always thought that we can only have 2, but you can have 2 males and 1 female and there will be fine. There won't be any fighting. So this is actually super cool. So if you don't know much about the cheetahs and you are wondering what the hell is a King Cheetah, is it a king of all the cheetahs or what is it? It is definitely not a king of all the cheetahs. So the King Cheetah is a color variant of the normal cheetah with rare mutation that makes the fur of this cheetah marked with large blotchy spots and 3 dark white stripes extending from the neck to the tail of this animal. They are extremely rare, but sometimes they occur in the wild. And in 1927, this is what I'm reading from Wikipedia, there was a researcher or the scientist who described those as an individual species, adding the name Rex to the regular Latin cheetah name, which is Acinonyx, if I am reading this correctly. So it was an Acinonyx Rex. But later on, of course, there's some research, like genetic research was done, and it occurred that this is a normal cheetah, like this is not a different species, this is just a cheetah with this rare mutation. So the Rex was just, dropped, and the Rex basically means king. So this is how the cheetah, King Cheetah, got its name. This is something like, being a person with blue eyes in the entire family of people with brown eyes. This is totally possible. It all depends on our genes, recessive genes, I think so, if I remember this right from my biology classes. So yeah, we have this really rare cheetah in our zoo, and I have kind of like a backstory for it. You know that we are building this zoo in sort of like a Middle East, so some Arab countries and so on. It was inspired by my visit to the Dubai Zoo quite a long time ago. I was really like inspired by different villages that this zoo has and so on. It was really nice. So if I remember correctly, some of the animals in the Dubai Zoo are the animals that were saved from the illegal pet trade. For example, big cats that, you know, were supposed to be pets for those rich Middle Eastern people, but they grew too big and became dangerous or something, and they just gave them away, or, you know, just threw them away or something, and the zoo rescued it. So this is what has happened basically to our King Cheetah. It was a pet. It was, you know, someone had it and wanted to get rid of it, and that's how the zoo obtained it, because those rich people from this region probably could afford buying such a rare and probably really expensive animal from the illegal like animal market, and it was brought to our zoo, and it became like a mascot of the entire zoo because of its like rare mutation. So people will just come here to see it, and it's something like a more special animal in our zoo. So yeah, this is an entire backstory, and you know, the story about our little male cheetah that we have here, the King Cheetah. I actually need to come up with a name for it. Maybe let's just call it a king. It is quite a nice name for a cheetah, right? King. I also like owe you some explanation why this zoo is not like occurring too often on my channel, because so many of you guys asked for it, so many of you enjoy those videos, and I love this zoo as well. I really do. I have a soft spot for this project, because I think that we are building something really cool in here. Most of the habitats here look really cool. Yeah, the thing is that, you know, the Arid Animal Pack was out recently, so I focused on those animals, and I always firstly add them to my Elm Hill City Zoo. And also when it comes to DLCs and this zoo, this Desert Adventure Park, it's kind of a hard topic because I have this plan for this zoo that I just developed when we started it quite a long time ago, before like a lot of those DLCs were released, and I planned this whole African section that we have, exhibit after exhibit, habitat after habitat. So I have all drawn out, and there's no place for the new animals from the new DLCs. That's why you can see that this African section, I think it only houses the animals from the base game. This will change in a couple of episodes, but most of the animals that we have them are actually from the base game, just as our cheetah that we are building for right now, and the next animal that we'll add after this will also be from the base game. So whenever the new animals are added from the new DLCs, they are really not, you know, they don't have a place in this section of the zoo, but they will have their places in the next sections that we'll build after that, because there's only like 2 more episodes after this one when it comes to the African section of the zoo, of adding animals. Actually, maybe I'll do a third one, like building some buildings or restaurant or anything like that for the main plaza of this section, and then we'll have the tour showcasing the entire like village, African village, and we'll move on to another section. Like, to tell you a bit my plans about it, we'll have the Australian section, we'll have the little Asian section, we'll also have the South American section, and we'll have the safari ride, like a safari jeep ride on the dunes of the desert or something like that. So those are my plans. I won't tell you what we'll build next time. Maybe it will be like a little surprise for you guys, but I already know what I'll do after this. So this is one reason, the DLC animals, and the second reason is that for some reason, there's a lot of reasons in this sentence, for some reason, building in this zoo takes a long time for me. I don't know why, but building habitats here takes way more time than building in Elm Hill City Zoo. I really cannot find a way of explaining it. The deserts habitats, the more like savanna desert habitats, they take more time to build, more time to do those, you know, grass patches. Also here, for example, for this particular habitat, the shelter and the backstage area took me so long. It was like 2 or 3 days of building. Like the backstage areas for the big cats are difficult to to make if you want to make them realistic. The one that I created here that you'll see in the later part of the video looks cool, I really like it, but it's not like super realistic because first of all, I just didn't know how to do it. The thing is that, of course, if you are looking for inspiration for your habitats for building in Planet Zoo online, you'll find tons and tons of pictures of the actual habitats, but finding good pictures of backstage, of shelters, of like this back holding night quarters for the animals is super difficult. Like I have some saved, but I sort of like feel that my backstage areas are getting a bit repetitive because I have some, you know, pictures that I am using over and over again. So I actually have something that I would love to ask you guys. If you are, for example, working at the zoo, or if you have some friends that work in the zoo, or you just, you know, had the opportunity to go into some backstage areas at the zoo and could send me some pictures of those areas, I would be so obliged. That would be so amazing, especially for animals like big cats, like primates, like for some smaller animals, like all those areas that the guests cannot really see. This is so interesting for me, and this would help so much with building those areas that you don't even know. So if you have access to those areas, or you have some pictures, please give them to me. Please, that would be so amazing. Because yeah, I think that building backstage areas, realistic backstage areas for big cats is so difficult, because you need to take so many things to consideration. Of course, they are dangerous animals, so I know how the keepers will get access, how there's this like guillotine doors like closing the animals in specific areas, so you know, the keepers can still go into the habitat with them being closed somewhere, like how they will enter their building and so on, how there will be fed without the keepers having to go into the habitat and so on. So there's so much things to consider. I know that I did some mistakes building this habitat, but I just couldn't figure out how to do it. For example, we'll have 3 holding pens, like little holding pens for 3 different cheetahs in the end, and there's this middle one, and this middle one doesn't have any like entrance for the keepers. Like they just cannot enter it because I just couldn't figure out which way they would like enter it. And also there's no like actual gate for the keepers to go inside of this habitat. The actual habitat gate, the in-game habitat gate, is hidden somewhere in the rock like formations, but I should maybe consider adding one just for the sake of realism. Maybe the keepers could go just in the guillotine doors, like under them. That we'll make later in the video, but I don't know. So yeah, there's so much stuff when it comes to building habitats in the zoo that make me like sort of sometimes prioritize building for Elm Hill City Zoo than this, and sometimes there are just different animals coming out that I really want to add to Elm Hill City Zoo, and this is the entire story. But as I told you guys in my last video where we built for Adax in the Elm Hill City Zoo, I will try to make those videos from the zoo more regular, so I hope that I will be able to make it. And by the way, thank you for the amazing support of this series. I know that many of you guys even prefer this over my flagship project, the Elm Hill City Zoo, so I am really happy about this. I also love this project, and I cannot wait for the further development of this because I think it's really special. Okay, we've been talking like way off the topic. Let's just talk about this habitat and what we've built here, because I really love this habitat. I must say that it is one of my favorites when it comes to the zoo. The first place belongs to the giraffe. Still, I just love this episode and I just love this enclosure so much, but this one came out really pretty. And what we did here was basically at first create this like back wall from the stalagmite pieces that we are sort of doing in this section of the zoo lately. So I wanted to make it all cohesive with the rest of this part of the zoo, and I used here my blueprint of the rock walls that you can download from the workshop. So if you want to use them, just look for me in the workshop, and you will be able to download those rock walls from there. After that, I did like a moat. I used the moat pieces that we already had in the game, but I sort of wanted to make it look bigger, simply because the cheetahs are dangerous animals. They are big cats. They are also jumping. They can leap over a big distance, so I really wanted to make it look more like secure and bigger, but still not like huge or anything like that, so it all looks realistic. And I also added a hot wire to this moat, and another thing to make it look a bit more realistic. This is something that you will see in habitats for the animals that are slightly more like dangerous, like big cats, big primates, and also animals that are good at escaping, climbing, and so on. Also, what we will do is like use our regular friends that we used in different parts of the zoo, but I will exchange the rope that we had in there for the rope that came with the tropical pack, this rough rope. There are this half-meter pieces that are really cool for making like more like curved rope, and also they are recolorable, so I was able to use the color that I slightly like more. So yeah, the cool thing about this mode is that the cheetahs are actually able to go down there, so it looks super cool when they are actually doing it. So I can imagine that the guests could get a really cool view for them from up, up above. And also we decorated the moat a bit. I always like to do it with a lot of dirt and some like weeds and different plants that would grow there over time. The cheetahs, they live on savannas. They live in very like grasslands, grassy regions, and from what I remember from the documentary that I recently watched about the savannah and the different animals living on the savannah, is that the cheetahs, they love to hide in tall grasses. They sometimes have their own hiding spots in the very tall grasses or bushes or anything like that, and they also live near some kind of thing that they can climb on to have a really good view for open space, like a little hill or a tree trunk or anything like that they can climb and just observe the area around them. So this is the things that I wanted to make for them in this habitat. That's why we just created like this centerpiece in the middle. That is basically a huge rock formation that they will be able to go up on just to observe their territory. And I also added tons and tons of plants to this habitat. I really wanted to make it look like a proper grassland, biome thing. So we have a lot of tall grasses, we'll have a lot of bushes so that the cheetahs can hide in those, lay in those, and so on. Maybe our guests won't be super happy about this because, it will be hard to spot the cheetahs, but I'm sure that the cheetahs would love it, and we are caring here about the animals. I also added the hot wire on the whole rock structure. It was so much work, but I think in the end it looks so good that I am so glad that I did this. Of course, I skipped a bit of doing those things, of planting, of adding those rocks and so on, because it was just the same thing over and over again. I recently saw a really cool cheetah habitat in Tierpark Berlin during my visit, and of course I noticed here that the cheetahs have those trails through the entire enclosure that they use to just go around it. They're just using the same path over and over again, so there's no grass growing on those trails and so on. So this is something that I also wanted to mimic here. I believe that the correct term is the pacing trails or something like this. So this is the trails that the animals just do while going through their habitats, patrolling them, and so on. I think that this adds just this another layer, this another thing that you can do in your enclosures to make them look a bit more realistic, a bit more just something that you will see in a regular zoo. So this is definitely something that I am paying attention to when it comes to animals like big cats, like some smaller mammals, and also primates. They typically have those pacing trails. Also the bears, for example, would have them. So yeah, if you like to add this a bit a layer of the realism to your zoo, definitely remember about adding things like that. What you can see me doing now is building sort of like a cave, but the cave will be for the guests. They can actually go there to get a better view for our cheetahs. This was totally inspired by my visit to Dubai Safari Park. I remember something like this being in there. It was slightly different. It was more like cavey, using a lot of different fake rocks inside and so on. I tried it with the stalagmite pieces, but I like the stalagmite pieces than the rock formations from slight distance. I think that they look so much better from distance than from up close. That's why using them inside of the buildings, like I just didn't feel that it looks nice, it looks right, so I just used something else, and I went for those matte pillars and matte walls, and it looks so nice. I actually really love it. We also did like an implied bench in there for the guests to sit on, to observe the cheetahs and so on. I remember while being in Dubai that I actually went to this cave, and the cheetahs were lying next to this glass like viewing gallery, so it was so nice to be so close to those animals. We will do also the door, of course, for the guests to go in. The doors are maybe a bit small compared to the entire building, but this is something typical for those like warmer regions, like we are building it on the desert. Of course, we'll have the air conditioning inside, so to prevent the cool air from coming out of the entire building when the guests are opening the door are just as small as they can be. So this is something that I had in mind. And of course inside we'll have a lot of information about the cheetahs. We'll have the billboards made by Marco, who is doing those billboards for me for every episode. So those little information signs are always made by him. So huge shout outs. And also we'll add some blueprints by Lion, the signs, the amazing signs from the workshop. I will put the link down in the description if you like to use them in your zoos as well. So this viewing gallery will also serve as the viewing gallery for the animal that we'll add next time. It is another very iconic, huge, dangerous animal from Africa. I think that it is not too hard to guess what it'll be, especially that this building is called a big cat cave. But what I wanted to make sure is that there will be like this barrier between the two like glass windows, so that the animals don't see each other and they don't get stressed. So that's why we added this like matte pillar structure in the middle that looks super cool. This is the second time that I'm building for the cheetahs. We also made an enclosure for them in the LMPLCD zoo. The cheetahs are one of my favorite big cats. I just love them. They are the fastest land animal on earth. They are so like slick, they are so like fit. You can see all the muscles on this cat. They are just beautiful and I love them so much. Right now we are building a backstage area for them. We will build holding pens. I am using here the fences that I created, I believe, for the chimpanzees, and we were reusing them throughout the entire like African section, so we will use them in here as well. And also I used the shelter that I actually did for the chimpanzees, and I will sort of like repurpose it and a bit renovate it to suit it for the cheetahs, but you'll see the entire shelter and the interior that took so much work to build in the cinematic shots by the end of this video. And yeah, this is all when it comes to this video. Unfortunately, I didn't have time to share with you guys any fun facts about the wonderful cheetahs, but hey, this is probably not the last time that we are building for them, so in the future I'll remember to do so. This is all that I have for you guys in this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you are excited for the big comeback of the Desert Adventure Park. If you enjoyed the video, please consider to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Ring the bell if you want to be notified every time I upload a new video. Give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and of course leave me a comment. Tell me what you think about our new cheetah enclosure in the Desert Adventure Park. If you like to support the channel a little bit extra, you can do it with the join button down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys!